Hello, YouTube prepper family. This is Lee, the Cold War prepper. Wanted to share with you about a list of 26 totally random, innocuous thoughts, lessons I've learned over the course of the last 40 or 50 years in prepping, and give you some ideas that maybe you can use. So number one, everybody says get a Bic. I say get a Zippo. So up until 1973, and I smoked up until 2015, so for about 45 years, but we carried Zippos. The Zippo lighter, Zippo fluids, extra flints, and in '73 they came out with Bic, and we started using that. I will admit, Bic tasted a lot better with a cigarette than did the Zippo, but you know what? For all intents and purposes, camping, survival, whatever, Zippo's the way to go. It's windproof. You can refill it. You got extra flints. If necessary and it's dry, you can still use it as a flint and steel to start a fire. Just very, very effective survival tool. So I recommend you get one of those. Number two, for your pew-pews, make sure not only that you have ammunition, but you have a means to clean them. You might want to get some good solvent, some good oil patches, board brushes, etc. Number three, make sure you have multiple sources for fuel and ways of cooking. So you can use wood fires, charcoal, grill pits, gas stoves, butane stoves, all kinds of different things, sterno stoves. Then you have the little heating tablets in camping stoves, etc. But get several different sources. Don't be reliant totally upon one. Number four, clean water versus dirty water. At some point, right now, when you're getting together, everything is clean water. At some point in the future, you're going to have to collect water and then purify that. So make sure you separate your clean water and dirty water containers. Mark your dirty water containers, those that you're getting out of streams, ponds, whatever, before you treat that water. That will be your dirty water. So once you've treated it, never put clean water into an old dirty water container. So you're going to have to separate those two so you don't get the two confused and contaminate water you just filtered. Number five, I recommend you have two portable potties. I have the Luggable Loo, and I forget the name of the other one, but we have three. But you do want to separate those so that you have one is set aside strictly for solids and the others for liquids. Liquids are far easier to dispose of. You can just take them out somewhere and dump them. You don't have to worry about the contamination effects of the solids. But you're probably going to have to take those to a location where you're going to dump those and then burn them or dispose of them some other way to avoid any kind of contamination. Another idea is to have three wash tubs. Now, whether this is for washing your hands or for washing dishes, but set three tubs up. The first one's going to have soap in it. The second one's going to be your rinse water. Your third one's going to be your second rinse. At the end of the day, you dump out your soapy water. Your first rinse becomes your new soapy water. So you add a little bit of soap to it and a little bit of hot water. Then the old second rinse becomes your first rinse, and then you add fresh water to become your second rinse. So you're always going through those. You're only using one tub's worth of water a day, and you're moving from the cleanest to the dirtiest in that cycle. Do the same thing with washing your hands. There is a company out there that makes containers, drink containers, and it has a spigot on it, but they have a way to where they have a soap dispenser and paper towel dispenser and a hand washing machine underneath. I had that when I had my emergency services trailer, and but you can get those, and that's pretty good for washing your hands. Just be very, very cautious, because anytime you use something where the water flows over your hands, there's an opportunity to use excessive amounts of water that you don't want to. Water is going to be very precious. Number seven, make sure you write down on anything you get that has an opportunity to expire, the month and the year in which you acquired it with a Sharpie, and then always put that your newest in the back and your oldest in the front. Now, one of the lessons I learned is all of our shelving is up against the wall. So it's very difficult for us to put new stuff in the back. So every once in a while, what I have to do is I have to rearrange everything. If you can, and you're just starting, the best thing to do is do that sideways so that you can have access to the back and put your newest stuff in the back and then move it forward. Make life a lot easier for you. Now, it does take up a lot more space, but it does make it easier for rotation purposes. Number 8 is buy small. I know a lot of people are concerned about cost and having a whole bunch over time. And especially with canned goods and stuff like that. I've seen people talk about the big cans of chili, the number 10 cans of chili, and the price of those at Walmart or at Sam's or somewhere like that. But just understand that if it's just 2 or 4 of you and you open up one of those large cans and it's really a post-apocalyptic event, how are you going to store the leftovers? So I would much rather spend a little bit more money in a smaller container, use that smaller container 100%, not have any leftovers I'm throwing away, and that way I know for sure that we're using everything effectively. Number 9, canned goods. You can keep them a little bit longer than what it says as far as the date on the can. A couple pieces of advice. If it's bulging, if it's rusty, if it's dented, then it's probably not going to do any good to eat those. And then one of the other things you want to do is make sure you open it, smell it, and take a look at what the color is. We had some old chicken a la king that we wanted to use up here a couple months ago, and started opening them up, and the color just wasn't right. So we threw those away, but probably about 3 cans that were like 6 or 7 years old. And we should have used those up a lot earlier.
You had a new can of green chilies, too.
I'm sorry?
A new can of green chilies that was bad.
Oh, yeah. And then Ellen points out we also had a brand new can, the small 4-ounce can of green chili peppers. And, I mean, I don't even think it was a year old, but it was rusting, and it was bad. We opened it up, and that was terrible. So, every once in a while, it exploded basically when we opened it up. So be careful. You can tell pretty much when there's good and bad food. So make sure you get as small as you can, especially if you're only like the 2 of us. You don't want to throw stuff away. There are some fantastic smaller bags of pasta that you can get at Walmart, and it's 2 different places. One's Fideo, and I think that's in the Mexican area, and I forget what the other company's name is, but it's perfect size for 2 people. Rigo's used to have these little bags of pasta sauce that was perfect for the 2 of us. Now we get the smaller jars of sauce for the 2 of us, and that'll be a full meal for both of us. One of those little bags, one of those little jars, and we do well. That way we don't have to worry about opening one of those big jars of Prego or Rigo's or anything, or Classico, and not being able to eat it all and not being able to have seconds from it. We're kind of lucky. We're in a different situation as a result of Snowmageddon, the Valentine's Day storm of 2021 here in Central Texas. We upgraded our solar system where we have a battery backup now. So all 3 of our freezers will stay cool regardless of whether we have power or not, because we will have our own power. So if you're in that situation, you don't have anything to worry about. You can stick your leftovers in your fridge and you're good to go. But that's a sizable investment, and so it may not be for everybody. So consider the alternative of getting the smaller stuff. Let me see. Okay, if you're, this is a tough one. I don't recommend buying anything for the sole purpose of trading it or bartering it at some point in the future. My personal opinion is I'm going to get stuff I need and I know I'm going to need and I want. Because when you buy stuff strictly for barter, what you're saying is, instead of buying what I need today, I'm going to spend the money on something else that in the future I'm going to use to try to trade with somebody who may just happen to have what it is I didn't get, and is willing to accept what I have in exchange for what they have. And there's just too much gambling going on with that. I don't think that's the right way to go. So, buy what you need instead of what you want to barter. But if you are going to buy something to barter, get the smallest possible you can. So, for an example, we buy the individual packets of oatmeal. We buy the individual bags of ramen. Little things like that are going to be great if we can eat them, and if we don't eat them ourselves, then that will be a great trade because it's going to be an individual type thing rather than a whole massive thing. Another thing you might want to consider is if you're going to have a big jar of, let's say, oatmeal, and somebody comes and you want to be generous and give them something, just something you might want to consider. This is something we plan on doing. take the oatmeal and pour it into, say, a gallon Ziploc bag. Just leave a little bit in the bottom of that big jar of oatmeal. Give them the big jar so it looks like you're running out and that's the very last you have, so that way they will tell other people it looks like they got the last of what you had, and they won't be coming back for too much more because they know you're scraped to get that. So number 11, watch your trash. It's going to be your biggest betrayer. So, for example, we have a lot of freeze-dried food. So if I start taking the PC cans or the number 10 cans of freeze-dried foods once they're emptied and throw them out in the trash in the front yard, neighbors are going to see that. It's going to betray us. And so be very, very careful what you dispose of and how you dispose of it, because that will betray you and that will attract people towards you. Number 12, along with that, be a gray man. Imitate what your neighbors are doing. You know, the fat man in the land of the hungry is always considered the traitor. So just beware. If your neighbors are starving, it does not suit you too well to be totally fed or have odors coming out of your house that shows that you're having a porterhouse steak with baked potatoes while they're starving. That could cause a lot of animosity amongst your neighbors. And so just be considerate in the fact that you want to consider yourself and not be too exposing of what it is you have and how you're going to cook that. We'll talk at a later time about there's phases you might want to consider using your stored foods after a post-apocalyptic event, whatever that might be. And it's going to follow the same rationale as your neighbors. Just think, what will they probably have? What will they probably be cooking? That's probably what I need to be cooking at the same time, so that I look like I'm one of them rather than somebody who has prepared in advance. So number 13, I prefer Sterile strips over sutures. I broke my hand at Christmas. Just got the cast off on Thursday. And so I did a first aid video, and I was talking about Sterile strips and sutures. And I was talking to my surgeon. I said, you know, I tell people to stay away from sutures. I tell them to stay away from staples, because in a non-sterile environment, you're adding 2 puncture wounds for every suture or every staple. And in a non-sterile environment, that's tripling your chances of infection. So I prefer to use Sterile strips and just, you know, cleanse the wound, Sterile strip it shut. The only place that doesn't work is on a knuckle. But so I was talking to my surgeon about that, and he agreed with me. And then I also told him my opinions about a tourniquet, which I'm going to talk about in number 14. And if there's no physician available and you put a tourniquet on somebody, that's going to be devastating. They teach us in CERT that, you know, once you put a tourniquet on somebody, you got to stay there with them and watch them and make sure that nothing seeps out. So you're giving up the opportunity to treat other people who may be salvageable while you're watching this one person that has a tourniquet on them. So you do a little bit of triage, and where is your greatest amount of good going to be done in the shortest amount of time? And my surgeon agreed with me, and he said, you know, one of the things you have to be concerned about is after about 2 hours of having a tourniquet on, if you don't have a physician there to remove the tourniquet, you're causing irreparable damage that could be fatal at some point. So, you know, use tourniquets sparingly. Consider the situation where you are. All you may be doing in some cases is prolonging somebody's agony. I am not a physician. I don't give medical advice, but what I'm telling you is consider the situation. Is there a physician going to be available to remove it, to save the limb? Are you doing anything that's going to help the person, or are you causing greater harm by prolonging the agony? Number 15, you don't have enough sterile wound wash. I can guarantee you that. I've probably got a tub and a half of them. And one of the things we go through on a quite regular basis is sterile wound wash. You're going to use that. You're going to use it to irrigate wounds, to cleanse them before you sterile strip them shut. You're going to wash wounds, abrasions before you bandage them and put any kind of antiseptic on it. You're going to use sterile wound wash to hydrate burns. So just get as much sterile wound wash as you can, sterile saline wash, whatever you want to call it. That's available at most drugstores, and Walmart has it. You can get it online. Just get as much of it as you can. That's going to be one of your lifesavers for stopping infection and for healing the wound. So number 16, I put down, don't buy anything with the intent to barter. So like I said, when I was up until about 5-6 years ago, I smoked. I smoked a pack and a half a day. They taught me that in the Army when I was in basic training in 1970. I didn't smoke, and we'd take a 5-minute break on a march, and the drill sergeant would come and say, "Hey, go back there and tell so and so this and do that." And so because everybody was smoking, got to sit on their butt and do nothing. I wasn't smoking, so I got to be the runner while I'm supposed to be resting. Well, I figured I'd solve that problem, and the first time we were allowed to go to the PX, what did I do? I bought a carton of cigarettes. And so back in those days, we only made $123 a month. I spent $2.50 on a carton of cigarettes. So that tells you how important it was to avoid some of those other discomforts. I smoked up until around 2015 when I was working at the homeless shelter. I acquired MRSA pneumonia from one of the homeless and spent 3 weeks in ICU. That'll get you to quit smoking real quick, let me tell you. But one of the secrets I learned from them is this little thing called the top machine. So if you're going to buy cigarettes, now remember, only about 18% of the U.S. smokes. So if you're going to buy cigarettes for the purpose of trading them, don't buy cartons of cigarettes because they're just going to go stale and people won't want them. What the homeless do is they'll buy this little tool and then they'll get a box of tubes. So you can get these both in 100 millimeter and in regular size. So make sure you get the appropriate machine as well. You take the machine, you open it up, you put the tube here on the end, put the, let me get rid of this telemarketer on my phone. You put the tobacco in the center portion here, then you tamp it down with this tool, then you close it, you've still got your cigarette tube here, and as you pull this back, the cigarette tube goes back with it, and then you push all that tobacco into the cigarette, and now you've made a cigarette. Now, why do the homeless use this? Because what they can do is, all they have to do is buy the machine and buy the tubes, and then they walk around the streets and they find all the cigarette butts that are on the street. They squeeze out the remaining tobacco out of that butt and use this machine, and they've got new cigarettes basically for their purposes. So that's an idea for you as well for barter type stuff. And you can see the tobacco stays good in a tube. You can see when I bought that was July of 2017. So back before I quit smoking, when I considered that might be something for me for long-term care. So number 17, learn wood cutting safety. Make sure you're cutting away from you. Learn how to use a hatchet or an axe properly. Make sure you have safe clearance around you. In Boy Scouts, they taught us to take the axe or hatchet and extend it and go all around in all directions. Make sure you have a clean swinging area. Make sure you're not cutting down into your legs, that you're cutting in between your legs. Do those kinds of things because, in camping, that's a big problem is cuts. And most of those cuts are self-inflicted. I see a lot of people cutting towards themselves. Don't do that. Cut away from yourself whenever possible. So learn knife, axe, chainsaw safety and practice it. Get some good garden tools. Get some good first aid training. Well, I kind of messed up there. Number 19 on my list, get a good knife and a good axe hatchet. So I have a couple. Oh, it's hard to get out. This is my SE6. It's a flat grind, totally different. That's what I keep on my bug out bag. For normal camping, I have my LT Wright Genesis 2 with a Scandi grind. So this is what I usually take with me camping. But it also has both of them have a magnesium, not magnesium, but ferrocerium rod for fire starting. Don't use either one. I continue to use matches and lighters. I guess I need to practice that at one of these days. I'm not really paying attention to it. Make sure you get a good folding knife. So in my pocket, I carry a Buck Revell. So this is my pocket knife on a regular basis. In my EDC pack, I carry this Ontario Knife Corporation Rat 2, fantastic knife. I've got my old Boy Scout Swiss Army knife. Gosh, this is from the early 60s. This is, in my opinion, the original multi-tool. Make sure you also get a good multi-tool. Then I had this in Boy Scouts too, so this is a combination, everything. Knife, fork, spoon, all in one piece of equipment. Make sure you get something good like that so you can take care of yourselves and carry it with you all the time. Let me see. Along with that, make sure you get something to take care of your blades. So this is my strop. And when I pull this out and start stropping my knife, my wife always makes some sort of comment about, am I getting ready to take care of her? Don't think it's funny, but she does. So, but anyhow, I strop my knives once a week. 21, get some clothespins and some clothesline. We didn't have electric dryers in our house when I was a kid until about 1968, 69. I was in high school. And but up until that time, we hung them on the line with clothespins. Don't see that many clotheslines in the backyards anymore. So make sure you get yourself some clotheslines, some clothespins, and be able to dry your clothes once you wash them. Number 22, the best way to meet people in your neighborhood. Now, I've got all kinds of people that I know who are good preppers, but they're not within walking distance. They're not even within a good driving distance. The group I was belonged to had people as far south as Lufkin, as far north as Waco, and you know, we're all trying to get together here in the greater North Austin area, and it just didn't work out. People were having to drive 2-3 hours to attend a meeting, and we just kind of collapsed because of that. But how are we going to depend on each other in case of an emergency? So we want somebody closer, somebody really close-knit. So the best way to do that is form or join a local neighborhood watch. And you're going to find out that people who are interested in taking care of the neighborhood, protecting the neighbors and stuff like that, you'll have a chance to discuss philosophy and everything else before you expose to them your ideas, your concepts, your thoughts, and what you have. And that way you're a little bit more assured that they are of a like mind before getting involved with them. Number 23, make sure that on your inventory, you write it down, as I said before, with a Sharpie when you bring it in as to the date that you acquired it. One of the other things I found out, as we got more and more stuff, and so my nice neat row of Wolf brand chili is now more than one nice neat row of Wolf brand chili. And so what I've done is I created a spreadsheet in Excel, and now I've added another column to all of my preps, and that is, where is it located? So maybe it's in room 1, shelf 3, or maybe it's in laundry room above the dryer, bedroom below the bed. Keep track of where you have things, because one of the things I've found is the more stuff you acquire, the easier it is to lose. Number 24, can openers. You don't have enough can openers. Make sure you get plenty of can openers. I like the Army P38 and P51. The P38 is the smaller one that we got with the C rations back in the Vietnam era. The P51 is the bigger one that they use for the number 10 cans in the mess hall. But get both of those. Get yourself some good hand-operated can openers. Make sure you have those available to you. Always have a spare of those. Number 25, I have disposable bowls. One of the things I've found, and this is a personal belief, and maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't, but one of the things that we find is that in most survival type situations, people are going to be, and even in the Old West, cowboy trail days and the frontier and everything else, most people ate stews and soups. So instead of wasting all your money on paper plates, get bowls. Get non-permeable bowls so that you can eat soups, stews, whatever the case might be. You can also use those as plates if you need to, but you can't use a plate as a bowl, but you can use a bowl as a plate. So if you're going to invest in those, invest in disposable bowls. And then number 26, just make sure you're paying attention to the signs that you're giving to other people. I know a lot of people want to have their political opinions, their opinions on religion and everything else on their vehicles via form of bumper stickers and window stickers and everything else. And that's fine during these times when we're semi-civil with each other. But as things deteriorate and as things get worse over time, that's going to betray you. and it could be nothing more than a marker to make you a target for somebody else. So I would recommend that if you want to be a gray man, try not to identify yourself either for or against anything on your vehicle, in your yard, or anywhere where other people are going to see it. So that's my list of 26 things that I've learned, and may make sense, they may not, but I hope they'll be of value to you. So have a wonderful day, and God bless you. Take care. Bye-bye.